And for me, it was only like I'd only seen a handful of live performances at the time. So for me, I'd seen like an open mic night once, which was bizarre because that was inspirational. Like Rich Jenny had a great observation. He said one of the great things about terrible comedy is it gives other people the confidence to do comedy. Because you would go to see an open mic night and the people were so awful. You're like, oh, the expectations are not that high. Like I thought I had to be like Richard Pryor.
Yeah.
Like, and it was so daunting. It was so the obstacle was so far away. It was so out of reach. But then you would see people that were amateurs that were clunky and terribly like, okay, at least I won't be as bad as that guy. And it gives you the confidence to like give it a try, to fucking see what happens. And the feeling of going on stage for the very first time, I'll never forget, was so alien, so bizarre. Just to hear my voice in a microphone.
How many people were there?
Well, a bunch of my friends were there. So that was like 10% of the crowd, 4 or 5 of my friends, maybe 50 people. But there was a guy named George McDonald, and he would have this thing called Comedy Hell. And Comedy Hell was open mic night. And he was a professional, so he would joke around about how this is comedy hell and you're going to watch people bomb, it's going to be terrible. But then you'll see professionals that night, and they'll go up. So the first night I ever went to see comedy, I got to see people that were awful, and then I got to see like a couple of like real world-class comics would go on stage and kill for 10, 15 minutes. I was like, wow, just the contrast and the difference. So you got to see the levels of it. It's like getting to see someone who's taking their first jiu-jitsu class versus a world champion black belt. And you're like, what a journey that is. And to see, the way I describe it to people, I say stand-up comedy is like you're making a mountain one layer of paint at a time. That's what it's like when you're starting. It's like you go there, and if you see Seinfeld, you're like, oh my God, that's a mountain. It's already there. I mean, you realize like this is one layer of paint at a time. 13 sets a night, hopping around, Catch a Rising Star and the Cellar, and going to all these clubs in New York, and then puts it together, and then takes it to Boston, or takes it to Cleveland, or takes it to all these places. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yes, I stole that move of going on stage afterwards and taking suggestions from the crowd.
Great idea.
Well, it was genius. And it's just a smart thing to do his whole set and then fuck around. Yeah.
Did you ever read Born Standing Up, Steve Martin
Yes.
book?
Yeah.
Such a great book.
It's a great book.
And
yeah.
It's interesting him talking about, setting a deadline. If I'm not successful in 10 years, whatever it is, like a long time, then I'm going to quit. And he gets to the 10 years and he's not successful, and he just keeps going because there's nothing else he wants to do.
Well, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like killing. There's nothing like performing. And my friends and I, we talk often about people who quit comedy, and like, how do you quit? Like, a lot of us almost quit during the pandemic, or resigned ourselves to the possibility that it's never coming back. You're sitting there in your house every day, and you're like, I guess I could get used to this. At least I don't have the anxiety of having to perform, and, I could just fucking find some other way to make a living. And at the time, I was making money doing podcasting, so I was like, okay, maybe I'm not doing comedy anymore. And a lot of us wanted to do it. And Ron White, he's the best example, because he was like, well, I think I'm going to retire. I'm going to take my boat and fucking, just, play golf every day. I made a shitload of money. I don't give a fuck. I'll sell my jet, and he was just resigned to not doing comedy. And then Tony Hinchcliffe had a show at the Vulcan Gas Company here in Austin. And he was like, just do a guest set. Just come on, do a guest set. And Ron was like, man, I don't know. I think I'm fucking done. And then the next day, after Ron had said that, Tony was like, so have you thought about it? You going to do a set tonight? He goes, oh, fuck yeah, I'm doing a set. I'm doing 15 minutes. And so he had gone over his recordings. He had an iPad, and his girlfriend said that he was like listening to recordings and writing shit down. I was like, oh, this would be interesting. And so we're hanging out, and we're in the back of the club, and Ron White goes on stage, and the first sold out show. First thing that happens, because people are so excited to go out, and this is in mid-COVID. These are wild, reckless fucks in the middle of a pandemic. No, not a mask in the place. Everyone's drinking, and in laughter is like the worst way to not spread a respiratory disease. They're they're exhaling in giant bursts of fucking particles and spittle, and Ron White goes on stage and fucking murders. I mean, like he had never missed a beat.
Wow.
And the audience, first of all, just goes insane because he's from Texas.
Yeah.
So they see him and they're like, that's our guy. He comes off stage, and I'm going on after him, and he grabs me by the shoulders, and he goes, "Whatever the fuck we have to do, we're going to keep doing this." He was so fired up.
That's
he
amazing.
Just grabbed my shoulders.
Yeah.
"Whatever the fuck we have to do, Joe Rogan, we're doing this."
Yeah.
I was like, "We're doing this, Ron."
How do you put up with having to travel and having to sleep in strange places and
Yeah.
all the drudgery of going on the road for that little hit of the excitement of being on stage?
It's not just the hit. It's the knowledge the knowing that you're giving these people an experience. They're having a moment. They're having a great moment. When you're entertaining a group of people like that, you're taking them on this wild journey of laughter and ideas, and they leave like you just hit them with a drug. You just fucking boom. You just drop this drug on them, and they walk out of there feeling better.
Beautiful.
And
it's for everyone. It's like you feel better, they feel better. Everyone heals in the process.
100%.
Amazing.
And it's your responsibility to do that work so that can happen again. And you got to be on point, and you got to go over your notes, and you got to be prepared, and you got to do a lot of sets so that you're polished and smooth and confident. You got all the beats in your head, and then you also have to be loose and relaxed so that it can flow, and then you can adjust to some chaos if something happens in the crowd. And it's the best.